This is the third tutorial in my series of piano lessons for absolute beginners. The series is aimed at those of you who are completely new to the piano and is going to run throughout 2017. It's completely free, you don't have to pay for any of the tutorials or the downloads. All you need is a piano and the willingness to put in some practice time. Now in the last tutorial we looked at the stave or staff, depending which term you prefer, for the first time, and we learnt some useful bits and pieces. In particular, we learnt that music is always read from left to right, and that this symbol that we can find here at the start of the stave is a treble clef, and that tells us we're looking at a treble stave, and therefore we can work out from that which particular notes on the piano keyboard the lines and spaces of this stave represent. In particular, we learnt that this line here at the bottom of the stave represents the E above the middle C. Yeah, and we also figured out some handy ways of remembering the note names. So we learned every green bus drives fast for E, G, B, D and F, the notes on the lines, and face, F-A-C-E, the notes in the spaces. We also learnt that you can use ledger lines to represent some notes that fall outside the range of the staff. We also figured out that if you stack notes on top of one another, then they are played at the same time. A really important point. And there were a couple of exercises that I had you do to kind of reinforce your knowledge of the note names. Now from here on in, I'm going to assume that you know how to find all the notes on the treble stave and one ledger line either side of it. Okay, without having to think kind of too hard. And if you're not at that stage yet, then by all means go ahead with this tutorial, but keep working on your note identification. Yeah, you need to get it so that it's really kind of automatic. Now, as well as telling us which notes to play, written music gives us another key piece of information that we absolutely need, and that is how long we need to play each note for, and, by the by, how to understand those notes in terms of the music's underlying beat. Once we know that, we have all the information we need to start reading basic music in the treble clef. So the first thing we need to do is to understand the concept of beat. Now, you probably have an idea of what beat is without me having to tell you. If you're ever listening to a song and you start tapping along with your fingers or with your foot, then the chances are you're following the beat. All music has beat, and many pieces of music have a beat that is regular. In other words, it sticks to the same speed throughout. But beat isn't always regular. It can get slower, or it can get faster, or it can pause. For now though, we're going to be working on pieces of music that have a regular beat. As musicians, we tend to divide the beats of a piece of music into small groups, most commonly 2s, 3s or 4s. We call these divisions either bars or measures. We'll think about the terminology in a second. When we're dividing up beats, we usually talk in terms of beat per bar or beat per measure. So for example, we might have 2 beats per bar, or 3 beats per bar, or 4 beats per bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's take a look at how all of that works in writing. Here we've got our treble stave with our treble clef at the start, and I've written in 8 notes. Each one of them is the G above middle C. Now each of these 8 notes is a crotchet or quarter note. Really important point, those terms are interchangeable. Crotchet is the British term, quarter note is the US term. Different countries around the world use sort of variations, okay, but crotchet or quarter note. In general, I'm going to stick to calling them crotchets because that's what I'm familiar with, yeah? Now, I've shown it's a crotchet by making sure that each one is a fully blacked out note head with a simple stem attached to it, okay? So blacked out note head, straight stem means a crotchet. Now, crotchets are useful here because we're in a time signature in which each crotchet is worth 1 beat of the bar. What do I mean by time signature? This is our time signature. I've written it in right ahead of the clef here. It gives us quite a lot of useful information. We call this 4/4 time. It tells us that each bar contains 4 beats, and each beat lasts for 1 crotchet. Okay, so 4 beats, that's the top number, and the bottom number is the code number representing the particular type of note. 4 is the code number for a crotchet, hence quarter note. Yeah, if you want to think about it in those terms, you know, the US system is much more logical. Yeah. Quick point about time signatures. If I were writing a piece of music that lasted for several staves, I would only write the time signature in at the first stave, at the top of the first stave, okay, right after the clef. If I went on to subsequent staves, I would write the clef, but I wouldn't write the time signature, okay. Single exception for that is if I changed time signature, but that's kind of getting into rocket science, so we won't worry about that for now. But usually time signatures just go at the start of the very top stave. Okay, so there we go. This time signature tells us how many beats per bar we have and which note represents the beats, and the bar lines divide up our bars. Yeah, another varying piece of terminology here. In the UK we talk about bars and bar lines. In the US you generally tend to talk about measures, although a lot of US musicians will talk about measures but then bar lines. Okay, if you just remember again that the two terms can be used interchangeably, bar or measure, it means the same thing. In particular, if you're familiar with digital audio workstation software like GarageBand or Logic or whatever, those applications, because they tend to be developed in the US, tend to refer to measures. Okay, I just use bars again because it's what I'm familiar with. But now we have all the information that we need to play this piece of music. Okay, and if we did play it, all it would sound like would be 1G. Bom, 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 bom. I'm not saying that's a G, I'm just guessing. Okay, that's how it would sound. 4 beats to the bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bom, 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 bom. We could take it at different speeds or tempos. Okay, we'll come on to that in a second. But that is basically it. You know, we could slow it down, it could be slower or faster, but that is the basic piece of music, and it's pretty boring. Okay, but it is a completely scored piece of music. We can even show that it's a full piece of music by putting a double bar line at the end to show that, you know, that's kind of the finish. Now, back to time signatures. Why we might choose one time signature or another is something we'll discuss later. But for now, we're going to be using time signatures that just use crotchet, remember represented by the number 4, as the basis of the beat. Okay, so the important number here is the one at the top of the time signature, the one that tells us that there are 4 crotchets per bar. Okay, 4 beats per bar. If it were a number 3, it would tell us that there were 3 beats per bar. If there were 2 beats per bar, and so on. Now, just before we move on to looking at an actual tune, there's just one more thing that I need to show you, and that's this note. Okay, which is a minim. Yeah, or to use the US terminology, a half note. It's exactly like a crotchet, but the note head isn't filled in. You just draw it as a little circle round the line or in the space. Okay, so that is a minim, and it lasts twice as long as a crotchet. In this time signature it will be 2 beats rather than 1 beat. So here we have a simple tune fully scored out. As you can see, it's in 4/4 time and it's just 5 bars long. If you want to print off a version of this for yourself, by the way, you will find that I've scored it out and it's in this month's accompanying PDF, which you can download right underneath this video. There's a link down there. What I want to look at first is rhythm and tempo. Now, tempo is the word that we use for the speed that the beat moves at. Now, if you're a composer of a piece of music, you've got various ways of telling performers what tempo to use. Okay, sometimes, especially in more kind of modern pieces of music, you will see an actual beats per minute indication at the top here. Okay, it'll say, you know, 60 crotchets a minute, or 100 crotchets a minute, or whatever. But the traditional way of showing tempo is to use a specialised musical term as a tempo indicator. Okay, because doing it that way offers the people often find it illogical, but if you think about it, it offers the performer much more kind of latitude for personal interpretation. Yeah, if everyone played each piece of music at exactly 100 beats per minute or exactly 90 beats per minute, there wouldn't be a lot of space for stamping your personality on the way you perform it. So what a composer does often is use this kind of specialised musical term, andante is the one here to tell us about the tempo. Now, andante is usually taken to mean at a walking pace, which musicians usually interpret as kind of steady but not too slow. Okay, maybe around, I don't know, 80 beats a minute or something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, something around there. It's a very common tempo marking. As we move on through the tutorials, we'll be coming across many more of these. Now, as we can see, most of the melody is made up of crotchets, and we know that each crotchet takes up 1 beat. But we also have some minims, and each minim takes up 2 beats. Yeah? Now, if you're new to reading music, one of the best things you can do the first time you see a new piece is clap through the rhythm, because that way you've kind of got that rhythm in your head before you start working out the notes, and it kind of makes the job easier because you're kind of doing one thing at a time. Now, assuming we're going at this kind of andante tempo, let's clap through the rhythm. What I'm actually going to do is tap on my desk here, so I can point to the note heads at the same time, and you can track where we are. I'll also count the beats. Here we go. I'll give us a bar in of counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's do it again. A bar in. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And as I say, usually you would clap it. Okay. You know, or do what you want. You know, tap a pencil on your piano, or however you want to do it. But that is a really handy thing to do. I should just say that these numbers over the top, hopefully you've worked this out, these numbers over the top aren't referring to the beat, they're referring to the fingering, which is what we're going to need next when we take this to the piano. So now we know the rhythm, we can look at the notes. As I said, we've got the fingering written in. You should recall that in the first couple of tutorials we learnt how to read fingers. So on our right hand we number our fingers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, from thumb to fifth. So let's play through. Remember, the tempo, the speed we're going at is andante, so we're not too fast, we're not too slow, we're just at a walking pace. Okay, here we go. I'll name the notes as I play through. C, D, E, F, G, F, E, D, C, C, G, F, E, D, C, C. Okay, let me do it again, and this time I'll count the beats, yeah, the beats in the bar as we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, what I want you to do now is to look at that tiny little piece by yourself. Again, it's in the downloadable PDF, which you'll find underneath this video in the description text, and go through it just as I have done there, naming the notes and then counting the beat. And what we're aiming for is smoothness and evenness. Okay, you should be able to count at a steady pace all the way through, and each note should have kind of equal weight. And if you can, you know, I know it's a tiny little piece of music, but if you can, try to make it musical. Okay, try to give it some sort of expression. We'll think more about expression in the next few tutorials. Now, elsewhere in the PDF, you'll find another bunch of short right-hand melodies. What I want you to do, as kind of homework before the next tutorial, is look at each one and go through the process that we've just been through. Yeah, so clap out the rhythm, then work out how to play the melody, and practice each one so that you can play it against a steady, regular beat. Now, every one I've given a tempo indication, and the ones that are in Italian I've translated. All those practice tunes are written with 4 beats in the bar, except the last one, which you'll see has a 3/4 time signature, which means it has 3 beats in the bar. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything more about that now, but just listen to it when you play it and see if you can hear how it's different from the 4 in a bar tunes. But finally, I should just say one thing about note stems, by the way, because you might wonder about this. You'll notice that on some notes, the ones above the B line on the stave, stems on the crotchets and minims tend to come downwards, and on the notes below the B stem they go upwards. Yeah, that doesn't have any effect whatsoever on what you're playing. It's just a convention that we have when we're writing music that aims to keep the notation on the stave as compact and as neat as possible. We'll talk more about the rules behind that in later tutorials. Okay, so that's it for tutorial number 3. As I said, work through the practice tunes until you're confident with them, and do keep working on the exercises from the previous tutorials too, especially if you're still a little bit shaky on note names and locations. Yeah, you need to get all that really basic information so that it's absolutely kind of natural and automatic to you. Now in the next tutorial we'll start to look at the left hand and to start to think a little bit about musicality and expression, and also find out about scales for the first time. Great excitement, yeah? In the meantime, as I say, keep practicing and do have a look at some of my other tutorials which you can, as a beginner, kind of get some benefit from. Yeah, I'll include some links under the video here in the description, and I'll put some links you can click on the end screen of this video, which should be showing about now if everything works. Okay, brilliant. Hope you enjoyed that. Keep practicing hard. I'll see you in tutorial number 4.